What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 3 of the Heated Exchange, brought to you by Blitzalytics with yours truly, Austin Geller. As always, alongside of me is my very close friend, Jett Rosenstein. Jett, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm happy we are back for another episode. I'm excited once again to talk fantasy football. A lot of preseason action these past few weeks. A lot of guys that stocks are on the rise and stock is on the decline. But I know it's preseason, but a lot of these things are something to keep an eye on. But yeah, we have a great show for you guys planned. And Austin, you want to get into what we're going to be talking about?
Sure thing. So first off, we're going to answer a very big question that basically only time will tell with, but we are going to give our takes on who will be the best rookie quarterback this year in this year's fantasy world, based off of who the coach is, what the teams are looking like, what the players are, so on and so forth. And then we're going to get into a mock draft. Our spots are going to be randomized. And Jett, if you want to explain to them what kind of mock draft it is, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so it's just going to be a 10-team PPR league, like Austin mentioned. Our spots are going to be randomized, so we don't know what our spot is yet. But yeah, we're just going to go through each of our picks, just kind of give you a brief analysis of why we're going the way we're going. And I'm sure along the lines, Austin and I will snipe some of the guys we want. So it should be a lot of fun. And hopefully with the way we draft, we can help you guys. As you know, this is a very big time for fantasy football draft season. So our goal is to help you get ready for those crucial draft picks that need to be made in the coming days and weeks.
Absolutely. And I just had 2 of my drafts today. So what's a third going to do?
Yeah. How did those drafts go?
I thought they went really well. Both were 12-team PPR leagues. I was very content with my teams. I pretty much got everyone I targeted. Cooper Kupp seems to be the most popular player in all of my teams this year, even though I literally argued against him last week. But nonetheless, I'm really excited about the season, and I can't wait for this mock draft now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Cooper Kupp flops, then it's going to hurt your teams. But like I said last week, I do think he's going to be very good, and you should be very happy with having Cooper Kupp on many of your teams. But yeah, so let's get into it. So like Austin was saying, the question of the day that we are going to be posing is, who will be the best rookie quarterback in fantasy this year? Austin, who is your guy?
Once this guy gets to start, and it's coming like a freight train, it is Trey Lance. What I've seen from him in preseason so far, he has shown that he is a dynamic and dangerous quarterback. He can throw the ball 80 yards down the field. We all know that. And he has wheels. And he's in an offense where the ball is going to be basically through him. The offense is going to run through him. They drafted him so high for a reason. They're not going to sit him all year. Garoppolo is not the answer to that team. If they want to make a Super Bowl run, they got to get better quarterback play. And I think Trey Lance, maybe not week 1, maybe not even week 2, but by week 4, I imagine Lance will get the start. And when he does, he is going to ball out. No doubt in my mind.
There's no question about it. He's definitely showed some things in preseason action that are very impressive, especially from a quarterback that's coming from a non-Power 5 conference. And he only played 1 full year in college because of COVID issues. And yeah, but he's a very impressive prospect. But the reason that I'm not going with him is, frankly, I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be seeing the field more than everyone thinks. I get that Jimmy Garoppolo has struggled in the past, and he's probably not the answer to the 49ers if they want to win a Super Bowl. But I could see a potential situation where we see Trey Lance sit out potentially the whole year just because he's had so little experience within the college ranks. I get, they spent the top 3 pick on him and they want to get him out there as soon as possible. But these are not running backs. These are quarterbacks. Takes time to get used to the NFL. So for that reason, I'm going for a guy that I think could be ready to start week 1. He probably is not going to, but my guy for this year is Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State, drafted to the Chicago Bears. Yes, Andy Dalton is still there. Matt Nagy, head coach, has said that Dalton's going to be the starter week 1, But if the Bears want to have any success this year, Justin Fields is the guy. We saw it against my Miami Dolphins week 1 in preseason. I know it was against second and third stringers, but he was moving around that pocket, firing all sides of the field. The offensive line wasn't giving any help either in the first game or the second game. We saw how good of a runner he could be. He scored a rushing touchdown as well as throwing a passing touchdown in that week 1 performance. In the second preseason game, his offensive line, like I mentioned, did let him down. He did suffer a big hit. I don't know if you saw that against the Bills. It was
couldn't miss it. Couldn't miss it.
It's definitely not. It's when if we're comparing like the Bears and 49ers offensive lines, obviously we give the edge to the 49ers in protecting someone like Trey Lance. But Justin Fields does have the ability to, like I said, escape pressure, move around the pocket. In my opinion, he has a stronger arm. Obviously, he's played he's had more college experience than Trey Lance, and he's played in the biggest games. Like Justin Fields he was in Ohio State and was playing some of the best teams like Clemson and Alabama. So he's faced that competition. I know it's sometimes a very tough transition to the NFL, but for a fantasy perspective, I just think the biggest thing is I think Fields is going to be playing more games, which will translate to more fantasy success.
I really cannot argue with that. I just believe that if Trey Lance finally gets the starting job, which he honestly may not, but if he does, I think he's just the more dynamic player. He has better protection, and I think he has a better overall team. But obviously, yes, if Garoppolo plays the entire year and Trey Lance takes 1 year to kind of sit out and learn, then yes, Justin Fields by far would be the best fantasy quarterback. However, I think the overall most talented fantasy quarterback this year, he may not put up the fantasy numbers because he lost the team. I think it's Zach Wilson. I think he's the most talented thrower, and I think the Jets give him someone to throw to. They somehow incorporate those new receivers. I think Wilson's going to surprise a lot of people.
He has been very impressive, and I get it's preseason, but still, like he's been consistent. He's been a lot of these rookie quarterbacks. They're going like 8 for 19, a good amount of yards. But Zach Wilson, his completion percentage has been pretty good. He's been accurate. I don't think he's turned the ball over at all. Yeah. So I mean, personally, not all 5 of these rookie quarterbacks are going to pan out either for fantasy or in reality. That's just the nature of every draft class. There's always going to be 1 or 2 or maybe even more that flop. In my opinion, the best odds to flop is Zach Wilson. But right. I mean, in your opinion, who do you think has the best odds to flop out of the top 5 in the class?
Fields.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
Because the Bears, they have the talent around him. But I don't know about that offensive line. I don't like Nagy. I don't know if they're going to use him the way they should. I think guys like Trevor Lawrence are going to struggle. I just don't think he has anyone around him. But I think Fields is going to be I think there's a possibility he could be a huge disappointment only because the Bears really have no protection. And I don't think Nagy's a good play caller. But obviously, I'm not going to root against him. I have him stashed in a couple of leagues just in case, but I think he has the biggest potential to be the best and the biggest potential to be the worst, depending on really how the Bears protect him and use him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously compared to like teams like the Jaguars, Jets, and even the Patriots, both the 49ers and Bears both have better weapons all around. Obviously, you give the edge to the 49ers offensive line-wise. I think, in my opinion, the Bears weapons are a little bit better than the 49ers. They do have Robinson, Montgomery, Darnell Mooney's a rising star. I mean, obviously the 49ers can't go wrong with George Kittle, Devo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see. It's a very interesting quarterback draft class. I doubt we'll see all 5, be great in the NFL. It's just the nature of how drafts work, but it's going to be very, very fun throughout not only this season, but for years to come. So it's definitely something to watch. Yes.
I can't wait. This could end up being the most talented rookie quarterback class ever.
Yes.
If everything plays out the way it should. The only time will tell.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get into the draft.
Let's get into it. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and we are going to randomize the draft order, and we are going to see where both of us are going to pick. Like I said, it's a 10-team PPR league. Really normal roster settings: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, defense, kicker, and 6 bench spots. So, Austin, are you ready to see where we will be drafting?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm going to click start draft. Here we go. Let's see where we will be picking. Okay. Oh, okay. Austin, you have the 4th pick. I will have the 8th pick. What do you think about having the number 4 pick?
Well, this is very new to me because every league I've been in so far, I've been at best the 7th pick. So I've never had a top 5 pick this year so far. So should be interesting.
Yes, it's going to be very interesting. I'm curious to see how the whole draft pans out. So now, Austin, you're on the clock after McCaffrey, Cook, and Kamara went off the board, which is pretty standard for what we're seeing in many leagues.
Makes sense. Just want to see other running backs, and I think this is just a no-brainer. Even though they added Julio, I just think Henry's still Henry. He's going to get a million red zone and goal line touches. I think also having Julio is going to make defenses have to respect the passing game now. And I think it's going to open up the field a lot for Derek. So this is a no-brainer for me. He's much better than I think Elliott and Eckler will be. So Derrick Henry.
Obviously, you can't go wrong with someone like Derrick Henry. For me personally, I think Ezekiel Elliott and Austin Eckler are going to have better years than Derrick Henry. I just think that workload is eventually going to catch up with Derrick Henry. But
I do love Austin Eckler. I have him ranked 4th on my running back list, but just because I've drafted him in a lot of leagues already, I would like to maybe change it up a little bit. But I don't like Zeke this year. I think they're going to save him a lot. They're not going to give him the workload that they used to give him. Tony Pollard's in there now. Dak Prescott may not be healthy all year. I'm staying away from Zeke in every league.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, for this pick, it's really between Eckler, like I said, I'm very high on, as well as Austin is. Saquon Barkley, if he's cleared and ready to go for week 1, he's really a steal at this point. I've been targeting Eckler in a lot of my leagues, so like Austin, I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley here at number 8.
Interesting. Very risky pick, which I can't believe I'm saying that about Saquon, but very risky pick.
Okay, so this is very interesting. So after I took Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Aaron Jones went off the board. Austin Eckler is still on the board, and I just raved about him, and I'm not passing on him again. In my opinion, I have him finishing in the top 5, potential to finish in the top 3. He's going to get a ton of work in the passing game, and he's going to be a stud this year.
Can't even argue that. Not for a second. So let's see who's available still.
Yeah, so after I took Eckler, Diggs, Najee Harris, and DeAndre Swift went off the board.
So this is a guy I do like going to this year. I'm either between Antonio Gibson or DeAndre Hopkins. And the thing is, I like Antonio Gibson a lot. The problem is, with Fitzpatrick there, I don't think they're going to feature Gibson as much. I think Fitzpatrick is a gunslinger, and a lot of teams he's been on, I think it's been more wide receiver heavy. I think guys like Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin are going to thrive this year, even more so than they have already. So I think I like D-Hop a little more. He's the main focal point in that offense. He is a volume and target machine. I don't expect any difference this year from last year. So Hopkins it is.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm agreeing with you along the lines of the Antonio Gibson thing. Obviously, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a gunslinger, and he's not the type of quarterback that's going to dump it off. So I get where you're going on that one.
Exactly. And now I think I'm up again.
You are. And
I just spoke about Gibson, but now as a 3rd round pick, I think that is a steal. He's still going to get a good amount of work, but now he's a very safe 3rd round pick. He's going to put up borderline RB1 numbers every week. And I think as a 3rd round pick, that's a steal. So this is a no-brainer for me, Antonio Gibson.
Like that's great value in the 3rd round. We've seen him going in the 2nd round in a lot of leagues. So to get him there after you were thinking about him in the 2nd round, it's definitely worth it, even with some of the question marks that we may have with him. So now I am back on the clock after I selected 2 running backs. Obviously, I would love to go with a running back again, But for me, I want to start to look at that wide receiver position. I would love to target Keenan Allen, but I don't really want to dive into too much of the Chargers offense, although I believe they're going to be very explosive this year. So I'm really looking at Allen Robinson and Terry McLaurin. We just mentioned Ryan Fitzpatrick and what he's going to bring to the Washington football team's offense. I really like Terry McLaurin. As great as Allen Robinson has been, I just think that Ryan Fitzpatrick's the difference. Obviously, there are questions with who's the quarterback going to be for the Bears. I think until Justin Fields gets the job, I get that Allen Robinson he's done great with bad quarterbacks, but until Justin Fields is at the helm, I feel more comfortable taking Terry McLaurin.
I can respect that. I think Robinson is the definition of consistent, but he's available still. So,
God, this is happening a lot where the two guys we're both deciding between the end of falling, which not complaining at all. Honestly, at this pick, I would be deciding between someone like Allen Robinson and Robert Woods. CeeDee Lamb is great. I'm now thinking that the hype is really reaching a peak. There's Amari Cooper still on that team, but like I was mentioning before, I love Allen Robinson. He's consistent with every quarterback, and you can't go wrong with him, especially putting him in as my wide receiver 2 in this mock draft.
Can't go wrong with that, man. Really can't go wrong with that. Good pick. All right, let's see. So looking at my team so far. Henry, I have Gibson, so my running backs are secure. And frankly, this is also a no-brainer for me. He is the definition of consistent. He's undervalued every year. He is, seriously, Mr. Consistent. The addition of Stafford, I vouched for him last week. Finally get him on a team. Robert Woods.
Love it. Love the pick. As much as I was going for Cooper Kupp in that debate, like I said in last week's episode, Robert Woods is, he's who you want on your team. He's going to get you that output week in and week out, like you mentioned. So
he's good every week. He is that, like, you can trust him every week. And now for my next pick, this is a round I always like to see if he's there. I am big on Mark Andrews. He is volume driven every year. I think last year was a little weird. It was just COVID and everything. But we've seen Mark Andrews play really well the last few years. He's been a top tight end. I think with the addition of Bateman and guys like Sammy Watkins, I think the field is going to open up a lot more in the passing game for the Ravens. And I think this is excellent value for Mark Andrews. He's a top 5 tight end for fantasy, and this is the perfect time to get him. So Mark Andrews.
Can't go wrong securing a tight end like that, especially with how shallow the position really is once you start getting to the lower end tight ends. But now I am back on the clock. I currently have 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers. Obviously, a common theme throughout many drafts is to secure those running backs as soon as possible. There's a few guys I like. However, I feel like I'll be able to get one of them that I'm like with my next pick. So I'm going to look again for another wide receiver. For me, it's really between Deontay Johnson and DJ Moore. Like I mentioned on the first episode when we were talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, I am a big Deontay Johnson fan, not just because I have him on some of my teams, but him and Ben Roethlisberger really developed a connection, and he's going to get a bunch of targets. Even with the addition of Najee Harris this year, the Steelers are still going to throw the ball a ton, and I think Deontay Johnson is going to benefit the most. So I'll gladly put him in as my flex spot.
Again, you know how I feel about Deontay Johnson, but as a flex, I can get on board with that.
Yes.
I don't think he should be your wide receiver 1 or 2 in any league, but as a flex, I think he's actually very good. So I respect that.
Yeah. So now before running backs can get very thin, very fast. And we have these, if you're looking at my screen, if you're on YouTube right now, you can see the tier 4 running backs like Darrell Henderson, Mike Davis, Travis Etienne, Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin. The guy that has slowly risen up my draft boards over the past few weeks is Darrell Henderson. I think now with Cam Akers gone with the Achilles injury, Darrell Henderson is the only guy you can really trust in that Rams backfield. There's been some buzz around like Jake Funk and Xavier Jones, but we don't know what those guys are capable. We know what Darrell Henderson is capable of. He's produced for fantasy. He's produced in real life. So I'll gladly put him on the bench as a solid runner who has a ton of upside on a great offense.
I respect that. Well, this round, I think this is the last round to get really your tier 2 quarterbacks. Your tier 1s are like the Lamar Jacksons, Josh Allens, Mahomes of the world. Your tier 2 quarterbacks, and even tier 1 with Dak Prescott, you have your Russell Wilsons, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herberts. I think this is one of those important rounds. I think if you have them available, I think you got to take them. And I'm pretty close on the wraparound. So out of all these 4 quarterbacks, Prescott, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Herbert, frankly, the guy I like the best this year is Justin Herbert. I think with Lombardi coming in from New Orleans, I think Herbert's going to explode for an even bigger year. He's getting Eckler back, and I think he has the most upside, especially with his legs.
Yeah, that was someone I was hoping would come back around to me, but honestly, he might not have. If you didn't take him, someone else probably would have. That's a great pick right there.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And now it's time for me to fill my flex spot. So I'm going to look at the available running backs and receivers, and I already found my guy, a guy I love this year on your Dolphins, fell right into my lap as my flex. I think he's going to be a PPR monster. Any other league, I'd probably stay away from him, but in PPR format, I think he's going to get a lot of production. Frankly, the connection between him and Tua in the preseason has actually looked really good. So after last year's season especially, I think there's no better choice right now than Myles Gaskin.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Gaskin is it was a little bit concerning the first preseason game that Malcolm Brown got a ton of touches and he got the first crack at starting that game. I know Brian Flores has come out saying that it's going to be a committee, but like we saw in last night's game against the Falcons, Myles Gaskin is clearly the best running back in both the receiving game and the rushing attack. So if Brian Flores really, if he's the great coach that everyone assumes he is, like I agree he is, he'll play Myles Gaskin more than any of the other running backs.
Agreed. 100% agree. I'm not worried about the first week of preseason. Myles Gaskin showed last year that he is a versatile player. He can do it all. So I'm with you.
Yeah, so unfortunately, after you took Myles Gaskin, the other 3 quarterbacks in that tier went off the board in 3 consecutive picks. So I'm going to wait on quarterback a little bit longer. For me, the guy that I'm going to take here is TJ Hawkinson. There's really no one on that Lions offense that I trust to receive the ball other than TJ Hawkinson. He proved to be he was a top 5 tight end last year. That was with some notable names like Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. Those guys are gone. So give me TJ Hawkinson, who's going to reel in a bunch of targets from Jared Goff this year.
You know what? A lot of people are hating on the Lions offense. You know what? I don't know if I'm that skeptical. I think certain guys like Hawkinson and Swift, I think they're going to get so much volume. I think they're going to be used so much. Especially in PPR formats, I think they're both good plays.
Yes, 100%. Especially like I mentioned before, the tight end position gets very rough, very fast. So I want to secure my guy if I can as soon as possible. But I'm gonna look back to the let's see. Let's go with the wide receiver position. I'm gonna go with Tyler Boyd. I feel like he's another guy that is frankly undervalued in a ton of leagues. We saw what Jamar Chase did in the last preseason game. He had three drops on 3 targets. He took a year off from football, so we don't really know where he's going to be. I think between Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, Joe Burrow probably trusts him the most at the moment. So I feel really happy with taking Tyler Boyd on my bench.
I like that. And I'm going to look at the wide receiver section and start filling my bench. And there's one guy that really catches my eye. 2 years ago, he was one of the most explosive receivers, really came out of nowhere as a rookie, I believe. Last year, he battled injuries, but this year he's back, he's healthy, and this team, I think, is going to make another Super Bowl run with him. Devo Samuel, I love him. He's a great guy to fill in for a flex spot. You can even start him in some leagues as your wide receiver too, depending on the matchup. But I love Devo Samuel.
Yeah, before you get to your next pick, just give everyone a glimpse at what your roster looks like at the moment.
Gladly. So at my quarterback position, I have Justin Herbert. My two running backs are Derrick Henry and Antonio Gibson, both which are RB1s. I have DeAndre Hopkins and Robert Woods as my two wide receivers. Hopkins speaks for himself. Robert Woods, I think he's going to be a high-end wire 2 this year with wire 1 upside every week. Mark Andrews is on my team. He's a top 5 tight end in my eyes. And Myles Gaskin is on my team as well, my flex spot. He is a running back 2, I believe, every week. Nothing more than that. And then I have Devo Samuel on my bench. And now I'm about to make my next selection.
Yeah, really quick before Austin makes his selection, my team is Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Allen Robinson, and Terry McLaurin at my wide receiver spots, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, Deontay Johnson at my flex, and right now my bench consists of Darrell Henderson and Tyler Boyd. So while we wait for the mock draft to resume, Austin, what are you looking for as we get to the later stages of the draft?
Well, right now I have my eyes on a couple really good players. I think they're going to live up to the hype this year. Right now, I'm looking at a guy like Michael Carter. I really want to find those a lot of those rookie running backs, those steals in the draft at this point. I pretty much have my main team set. So like I said, I love Michael Carter. I think the Jets are going to use him heavily this year. He's clearly the best back out of everyone in that backfield. And I think as the season progresses, you will see Michael Carter's usage going up every single week. And I think the connection between him and Zach Wilson is going to be great for owners, especially in PPR leagues. And I think this is a no-brainer for myself. Michael Carter, welcome to the squad.
Big Michael Carter fan, and I'm expecting big things from him as well. So love the pick for sure. All right, so I am back on the clock, and really, I'm looking at running backs once again because, frankly, I think there's several guys here that have a ton of upside, but after that, it gets, a lot of older names like Leonard Fournette and Kenyon Drake, who have been around the league, and I'd rather take a stab at someone with maybe a little more upside. And for me, the guy that I'm going to take my shot on is actually going to be Raheem Mostert. I think that if he's able to stay healthy, which obviously is a huge question mark, he hasn't proven to do so. But I think, especially if Trey Lance is manning that offense, he's going to make that whole offense better. I get Trey Sermon's there, but for some reason, Trey Sermon's going at the same range as Raheem Mostert, and Raheem Mostert has proven. I get there's question marks surrounding his health, but I'll just take a little bit of risk on Raheem Mostert and see what happens.
I like the risk. However, like you said, Mostert, he has not been able to stay healthy at all. But when he's on the field, he's a beast. But I think they spent a high draft pick on Sermon for a reason. But I respect the guts. I respect the risk.
Okay, so this is interesting. So I'm deciding between Damien Harris and Corey Davis. I would love to secure another running back, but I'm a little skeptical with the Patriots backfield. And I know Bill Belichick and a lot of the guys on that coaching staff has said that Damien Harris is the guy, but especially in a PPR format, Damien Harris isn't really going to be involved in the passing game. So give me Corey Davis, a guy that's severely undervalued in leagues and has seemed to have a nice connection with Zach Wilson and has performed well in preseason so far. So give me him.
I like that. Well, I'm going to take Damien Harris at this pick. I think he's a good guy to have on your bench, especially for any bye weeks you may have or injuries you may have. He's going to get a good enough volume with his carries. Hopefully he'll find the end zone if I ever put him in. But he'll be the starting running back. He is the RB1 in that team. I think it's a great price to get him, especially in round 10. I can't argue with that price. So
yeah, I just have a few question marks with Damien Harris, but he definitely has but there's a lot of guys with question marks in this part of the draft. So why not shoot your shot with someone like him?
Absolutely. And another guy I finally think is going to have a huge season for the first time is Mike Williams. I think with Joe Lombardi coming in here. Thank God Anthony Lynn is out. Finally, Herbert's gonna be unleashed fully. They're not gonna become conservative in the second half like they usually do. Mike Williams is arguably the most athletic receiver, biggest playmaker in football. You can argue it. And I think this year he's going to be incorporated a lot more into this offense. I'm expecting big things from him. So Mike Williams.
Yeah, they've come out and said that they want Mike Williams to possibly play that Michael Thomas role in New Orleans. So if that's the role that he's going to be playing, they're definitely going to make him more of a focal point of the offense than they have in the past.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm the only team in this league right now that does not have a quarterback. And I'm not really too worried because there's a couple guys sitting there that I really like. I get that there might, excuse me, be a few teams that want to take a second quarterback, but with my next pick, a few picks away, I'm gonna really focus on another position here right now. This may be a little bit of a reach, but frankly, with all the praise I've seen for this guy, saying that he's going to potentially be the best wide receiver in this rookie draft class. And I know Austin's going to like this pick because he's a big fan of this guy. I'm going with Elijah Moore of the New York Jets. I get that I just drafted Corey Davis for the Jets, but the hype has left the station on Elijah Moore, and I'm buying into it. I fully believe that Elijah Moore has the potential to be the steal of the draft and the steal of for the NFL draft as well.
I think he has the potential to be this year's Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
Absolutely. He's big, he's physical, he's fast, and I think he is going to explode this year. Corey Davis is going to be the wire one that team. He will draw the opposing team's best cornerback, which leaves Elijah Moore to operate, and it's his field at that point.
Oh yeah, when you're getting praise from your guys that went to your school like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, who know this guy as well as anybody. I'm gonna trust their advice, and I'm gonna take my chances with them. But yeah, now I'm back on the clock, and I'm going to select my quarterback, a guy that is severely disrespected in drafts. Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, I was the last person to take a quarterback, and I'm very happy that Tannehill's my guy. I waited a long time, but yeah,
that's a great price for a guy who finished as, I believe, quarterback 7 last year.
Yes,
I'm just added Julio.
It's weird because he seems to be falling a lot in drafts, and I get only every team starts one quarterback, so someone's gonna fall, and Tannehill just happens to be that guy.
Great pick, especially at this round. So right now, I'm looking at the receiver position. I see Devontae Parker and Darnell Mooney. I don't love Parker this year. I'm not sold on Tua yet. I think also Miami has a lot of guys in put that shirt away. It's not good. It's not good for us.
I must not have watched his performance last night then.
Preseason. By the way, I love Darnell Mooney a lot more. I think he's gonna make a big stride this year, especially when Fields starts playing. And I expect big things from him finally.
I love Darnell Mooney as well. He's one of the, like I said before we were talking about rookie quarterbacks, is one of those up and coming players, and yeah, that's a great pick at this point in the draft.
You don't deserve to love him. You're a Dolphins fan. Well, with my next pick, this is really for depth and just in case this guy gets hurt, but I also think this guy is going to get used a lot more than people expect. We've seen it in Green Bay, and that guy is Jamal Williams, who's now with Detroit. And even though Swift is the main guy for sure, he's going to get majority of the workload, but Williams would only be starting on my team if a lot of my guys get hurt or Swift is hurt, then I think Jamal Williams automatically steps into an RB2, borderline RB1 role, purely because of the volume. So I think he's a great guy to have, especially this round. So this is really a great value pick for me.
Even if Swift doesn't miss time, Williams is going to be actively involved in that offense. And yeah, I mean, the Lions are looking for someone to step up in the receiving game, and they have Hawkinson, but Jamal Williams can also play a more role.
But also, let's not forget, it's still going to be Swift. He will get majority of the work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
pure talent.
Yeah, so I'm back on the clock, and for me, I'm someone that usually, if I have the option to, I usually do not draft a kicker or a defense. But I'm going to change things up a little bit, and kickers score points. They sometimes score more points than the tight end position. So
Kickers are people too.
yes, that's exactly right. So I'm going to choose Harrison Butker, and he's part of the most explosive offense in football, and they're going to score a bunch of points. I get Justin Tucker is the best kicker in the league, and you can't go wrong with picking him.
No.
But I like the Chiefs and Butker better, so give me him for my kicker spot.
You can't go wrong with Butker or Tucker. Can't go wrong with either of them.
Or even Young Hoku as well. Like they're all
absolutely 100%.
All right, so yeah, I said I didn't draft the defense either, but I'm going to draft the defense, and I'm going to kind of base this off of week 1. Actually, the first 3 weeks, this team has very nice schedule. They play the Giants, Jaguars, and Jets, and I'll be sitting pretty for 3 weeks, and I'll worry about my next defense for week 4. So give me the Denver Broncos right here.
You sure you really trust them against my Giants week 1? Are you sure?
I trust them against the Giants, especially if Saquon Barkley isn't even playing.
Okay, yeah. For those of you who don't know, I'm a diehard Giants fan. I'm a diehard New York fan. Giants, Knicks, Yankees. So go blue. But Jett, you're wrong. Very wrong. Giants are gonna absolutely obliterate Denver week 1. Denver has no quarterback play, so they're gonna get no offense, and the Giants are gonna score a bunch of points. But
no way. Daniel Jones is the answer. I don't
absolutely. This year, listen, he has one more year to prove himself. This is it. I'm over him after this. If he does not play well this year, I'm over. They better get rid of him. Yeah, but I think he has all the tools. He has the wheels. They finally understand how he can thrive. Roll him out of the pocket, let him run, and frankly, he has every weapon available to him, even without Saquon. But that's another topic for another day. So this pick, I'm going to take Justin Tucker. It's either Butker or Tucker, and I think Tucker is going to also be on an explosive offense.
By the way, back to that Giants thing, they have no offensive line, and give me Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, giving my defense a couple points via the sack, maybe a couple fumbles returned for a touchdown. So I like the Broncos definitely against the Giants. So.
I cannot wait for the Giants to have a better record than your awful Dolphins.
Oh, let's make it better right here. I think that the Dolphins. I'll pay you $20 that the Dolphins finish with a better record than the Giants, as well as the Broncos beating the Giants.
You're done. I don't know why you do that to yourself, man. You're one of my friends. I like you, but why would you do that to really? Why would you embarrass yourself like that?
I figured I'll win that other Zach Wilson to a Tagovailoa bet. So why not double up my money right there?
Okay. We'll see about that. However, with my last pick, I believe this is the last pick, I'm going to go with my defense, and people sleep on them. They were arguably the best defense 2 years ago. Patriots defense, they're getting everyone back. They're healthy.
All right. So for my final pick and the final pick, the third to final pick of the draft, this is a guy that maybe not everyone really knows about, but I've done a little bit of research on the guy, and for me, this could potentially be another James Robinson situation. I know it's very rare to see in the NFL for undrafted guys to have a crazy impact, let alone their first year in the league. But I have a lot of question marks about Mike Davis as a running back. We saw him as the season got on. He was not able to handle that heavy workload. He might have a hot start to start off the season, but I think the guy that's going to potentially take over the role if Mike Davis gets injured or does not perform is going to be Javion Hawkins, an undrafted player that the Falcons signed. I like him to potentially, it's unlikely, but potentially take over that James Robinson role that we saw from it last year. But
I can respect that.
Yeah. So what grade did Fantasy Pros give you?
Well, Jett, let's go over your grade first. I'm gonna be sweet with you. I'll be sweet. So let's see, what'd you get?
Yeah, so I got an 84 out of 100.
It's okay. It's all right.
What'd you get?
I got a 92.
92.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that is because you probably a lot of the guys you picked were like suggested by Fantasy Pros. I kind of went off the grid a little bit with the Javion Hawkins, Elijah Moore a little bit early, but yeah, no, don't get me wrong, you have a great team, but I probably took a few more risks than I should have.
I'm really not surprised. I'm a better fantasy player than you. I won our league last year.
Not a better drafter.
Not necessarily. As clearly Fantasy Pro shows, my team's a lot better, and it is a lot better. But that's cute. You think your team's good. That's cute.
Yeah, but before let's go over both of our teams, Austin. Since I know Fantasy Pro says you have the better team, but in my opinion, since you have the worst team, you can say your team first.
My team first? Gladly.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to start off with Justin Herbert. He was a rookie sensation last year. Thank God for doctors. For allowing him to get the start. Go doctors. Derrick Henry, King Henry, 2-time rushing leader, back-to-back. Tony Gibson, excellent year last year. I expect better numbers in year 2. Even with Fitz, but still, I think his ceiling is a little limited because of Fitzpatrick. But regardless, he's an RB1. DeAndre Hopkins is a target and volume machine. He is Kyler Murray's main guy, and they know they're going to have to incorporate him no matter what to win. So Hopkins is a top 5 receiver, absolutely. Robert Woods, he's a arguably borderline wide receiver 1, but he'll certainly be a wide receiver 2 every week, especially with Stafford. I have Mark Andrews. I have Myles Gaskin, Colts defense, Justin Tucker, Devo Samuel, Damien Harris, Michael Carter, who I cannot wait to pop off this year. Same thing with Mike Williams, Jamal Williams, and finally Darnell Mooney.
Don't get me wrong, that like a lot of those guys, especially on those bench, are guys I have in many of my leagues, like Mike Williams, Darnell Mooney. I'm a big fan of Michael Carter.
You're copying my style because you know I actually know what I'm talking about.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we had our draft for our league a few weeks ago, and Mike Williams and Darnell Mooney were a few of the guys I drafted. So maybe
I couldn't get them. Well, I couldn't get them. I didn't have basically my 7th, 8th, or 9th round pick. But guess what? I'm still projected more than you week 1. For good reason.
Yeah, well, because I don't have a kicker yet. So once I put my kicker in, maybe
I forgot kickers are projecting 20 points a week. I forgot.
Kickers are people too. You said that before, so we can't discount the production that they give. But let me get to my.
You're not getting Harrison Butker this time. You're gonna have someone on the waiver wire.
Yeah, but we've seen some guys come off the waiver wire and finish. Look, Jason Sanders last year is a perfect example. So I'm looking for my Jason Sanders for not only week 1, but
here we go with the Dolphins again.
Okay, let me get to my team. So a former Dolphin at quarterback, now on the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill, my guy, a steal in round 12. I am more than happy with having him as my quarterback. 2, in my opinion, RB1s with both top 5 upside in Austin Eckler and Saquon Barkley. I get there's a little bit of risk with Saquon Barkley. Obviously, the Giants have an awful offensive line and subpar offense, so that could hinder his fantasy outlook. My 2 wide receivers, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, 2 guys that are going to get fed the ball a ton. Obviously, there is a little bit of question marks maybe with the Washington offense. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick going to spread the ball around? Possibly, but in the end, Terry McLaurin is still going to see plenty of volume. TJ Hawkinson at my tight end spot, like I mentioned, there's really no one like of note on this Lions offense that I trust besides Hawkinson. So give me him in my tight end slot as a guy that finished in the top 5 last year, who very well can do the same again. My flex is Deontay Johnson, someone that I would feel happy with as my wide receiver 2. I knew you may not, but he, like I said, is going to guy that's going to get fed the ball from Ben Roethlisberger. We saw that connection last year, and it's going to be pretty much of the same in my opinion this season. Obviously, Denver Broncos are going to slaughter the Giants and the 2 other teams they play the first 3 weeks of the season. So give me those points.
This is why I won our league last year. This is why I beat you last year. For these ridiculous takes. Seriously.
It's the Giants. It's the Giants. It's not like I'm saying the Broncos are going to slaughter the Chiefs. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Okay, anyways. Harrison Butker, kicker. Kickers are people, too, like we both alluded to. Darrell Henderson, a guy with top upside in my bench. Tyler Boyd, highly disrespected. Raheem Mostert, a little bit of an off-the-grid pick, something I don't normally do in drafts. But he is the number 1 guy until potentially Trey Sermon gets a bigger role. Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, 2 guys on a team that are going to be passing the ball a ton. Zach Wilson, we'll see who he leans on more. Right now, it's looking like Corey Davis, but it could very well be Elijah Moore by the end of the season. He's one of the more.
I think it will.
Yes,
I think it will.
like Austin and I probably both believe he can end up being this year's Justin Jefferson. I know Austin mentioned that, but it's definitely a real possibility, especially with some of the question marks around the Jets. Someone's going to have to emerge, and why not Elijah Moore? And then my final pick, Javion Hawkins. Keep the name in mind during your drafts. You don't really have to take him in the last round of your draft, but I just wanted to prove a little bit of point that I don't really trust Mike Davis. And if someone is going to take over that role, it's not going to be Cordell Patterson or Quadra Olison. They've been in the NFL for several years and they've done nothing. This is Javion Hawkins' time to shine. You could very well get him on the waiver wire in your league, but I'll take him in the last round.
You know what? I think I'm actually going to take you up on that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't listen to you. That's funny.
Well, he's still available in our league, actually, and
for a reason.
Well, I mean, I gotta save up for when I pick up my kicker. I don't know if you did see, I did pick up the Broncos defense for the aforementioned matchup against the Giants, Jets, and Jaguars. So
why don't you drop AJ Dillon?
No, I'm not drafting. I'm not drafting AJ Dillon. Come on, Javion Hawkins is such a gamble. We know what AJ Dillon's capable of. Javion Hawkins is a guy that potentially will be one of those guys you spend all your free agent acquisition budget on. If Mike Davis were to go down, I think he could take over that workhorse role. But that's just me. Everyone thinks differently.
Another topic for another day.
Yes, I've rambled a little too much on Javion Hawkins, but that's just what I feel about it. But
it's all good. It's all good. Hey, you're passionate.
Yeah. So, anyways, guys, that was episode 3 of the Heated Exchange. We went over a 10-team PPR mock draft. Let us know either on Twitter or on our comments in the YouTube video what you thought of both of our drafts, what you would have done differently, who you think won the draft, Austin or myself. I believe, obviously, myself won. Yeah. Austin thinks differently, but we'll leave that up for the people.
Austin's right, but it's potato.
Yeah, so, but anyways, for episode 4 next week, we're probably going to be highlighting another team. We'll bring back the stat of the day, and we'll do another player comparison to be determined. Austin, anything to add before we get out of here?
I think you basically covered it all, man. Can't wait for next week. And I'm so sorry about your draft tonight. I really hope you don't draft that poorly in other leagues. For the rest of you out there, good luck in your drafts. If you still haven't drafted yet, really, please make sure to tune in next week. We cannot wait for next week's show. We're going to give you a lot of new information that we really want you to use. Other than that, everyone, you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, and one more thing, like Austin's mentioned on the last episode, we both work for Blitzalytics. You can see both of our articles about fantasy football and NFL related to get a more deep dive into what we feel about certain players and certain strategies. So go check that out if you have not already.
Go check that out. Blitzalytics.com. Seriously, you do not want to miss this. Our team is really on the money with their picks and their analysis and their statistics and their projections and predictions. As Jett said, you can see both our articles on there. We've done a lot of research, and if you want to win your leagues this year, I highly suggest checking out Blitzalytics.com.
Yes, we are a young company, but definitely on the rise. So definitely keep note of not only us, but everyone that works for Blitzalytics. Right. But yeah, so this was episode number 3. Episode 4 will be next week. But remember, if you cannot handle the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Damn right.
Like Austin always says. Right. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you, everybody.